This is such an auspicious day as we stand here commemorating 100 years after the armistice that brought an end to World War I. We remember the 4.7 million brave men and women who served in that war and the millions who have served since. There is no greater lesson that needs to be learned by the leaders of our country today than the one set forth by the example that our veterans live by. Veterans who've sacrificed their own personal interests out of a greater love for our country, for our principles, and for our people. This is why, like so many of you, it makes me sad to see how divided our country is today. The reason is because we have people in positions of power, people in positions of influence, whether it be in politics or business or in different parts of our society, who are acting in their own interests rather than the interests of the people, who are fomenting divides between us for their own personal gain or political gain or financial gain or for their own power. And as a result, we are seeing these divides deepen between us as people, whether they be for political reasons or partisan reasons, because of race or the way we choose to worship. We see this kind of self-centeredness in different parts of our government, in big Wall Street banks, in our healthcare system, corporations that don't care about our environment. We see too many examples of people using their positions and their power for their own selfish interests, rather than recognizing how their actions and decisions impact the people of our communities, the people of our country. Just in this last election we saw on the news, we saw people and politicians talking about how they were intentionally trying to foment anger and division between people in order to motivate people to go out and vote. We see this in Washington, where too often, as policies are brought forward, they are brought forward for the benefit of one party or another rather than for the benefit of the people. We see too often politicians who are kowtowing to special interests and lobbyists or selling their vote to the highest bidder rather than thinking first and foremost about the people who they've been charged to serve. So what does this have to do with Veterans Day? The reason why we're all gathered here, it is because our veterans embody the exact opposite. In order for us as a country to understand how to heal these divisive wounds, we have to come together. And we find that solution by looking no further than to our men and women in uniform who generation after generation after generation, motivated by love for one another and for our country, have been willing to sacrifice everything for us. Veterans are the perfect example of individuals motivated by this love and aloha, willing to sacrifice their own interests in order to serve our country. And the reality is, and we know this, veterans don't raise their hand and volunteer to serve just to look out for one religion but not another, for people of one race or ethnicity but not another, for people of one tribe but not another. No. When we take that oath of office, when we join the military, we're setting aside our own interests, even our own freedoms, to salute this flag, to protect our country, to uphold the values and principles that we hold dear. We're saying that I'm willing to lay down my life out of love for this country. Just think about that for a minute. What does that mean? To lay down one's life out of love. Love for our family, our friends, our community, our country, our freedoms. This is not a common thing. See less than 1% of our population in this country today who is serving in uniform, voluntarily, making that choice, making that sacrifice. We know that for those of us who have served, as soon as we take that oath, the moment we step foot in that quad, when we go to basic combat training, we understand very quickly that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. That we're a part of a diverse team, bound together and united by our common sense of purpose and mission, which very simply put is to serve our country. We learn very quickly that we cannot allow anything to divide us, that we must train and fight as one cohesive unit. So that whether we are here at home or we're deployed downrange, it makes no difference whether the man or woman next to us is of a different race or a different religion or a different political party. None of this matters. It's irrelevant because we stand as one team, one people, as veterans, united, inseparable and unbreakable, joined together by this bond of love for our country and love for our people, love for one another. So this is where we should look. This is where our nation's leaders should look as we seek solutions to the challenges and the divisiveness that we see in our country. We look to our veterans who are that shining example of what it means to put love in action. Love is not just a feeling. Aloha is not just a feeling. It is a powerful force that motivates us, whatever our position may be, in our everyday lives to take action for the well-being of others. This love and aloha is what our country and the world needs most now more than ever. We have seen how this has been embodied by leaders in our history, leaders like Nelson Mandela and Dr. Martin Luther King, who could have chosen to live their lives in a different way, who could have chosen to live in a different way. But in their time of great hardship, of great divide, of even violence, they chose love. Because they saw that only love defeats hate. They saw how hate divides people and love is what brings us together. That it is love that calls on us to care for one another, to care for our home, our beautiful environment, to make sure that our kids have a future with clean water and clean air and a beautiful place to live. It's love that calls on us to care for the lives lost, our brothers and sisters who have sacrificed everything, countries that have been destroyed by counterproductive regime change wars, and to care for our veterans, put their lives on the line to serve our country. This love and aloha is what has the power to speak to our nation's conscience and to our hearts. It's what teaches us that when we care for each other, choosing inclusion and love over division and hatred, that this great country is at its greatest. So as we honor our veterans today, may we uplift them and their example to inspire our country during this time of need and light our path forward toward a brighter future. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your service. Aloha.
Don't know that the Congresswoman is an active duty National Guard officer, a major in the MP Corps. Thank you. And she's been deployed multiple times downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thank you very much for your service, man.